I used to cry a lot. Let me just admit that. What is up, ducks? My name is Danny Kim, and today I'm going to answer the questions you have about the Korean military service. Now, before we go on, I have served in the Korean military for 2 years, so I will try to best answer what I can because you guys seem to have a lot of questions. Has the government ever thought of making military service obligatory for girls too? There are talks because there's a steep decline in population right now. They're running out of men. Basically 90% of the men that are eligible are going to the military right now. Even then, it's a shortage. So maybe when they need more manpower, they might really consider it. Personally, I believe women should serve at least some kind of public service. I think they should at least get like 6 weeks of basic training like all men do, and then maybe go off to do public service work, because honestly it's kind of unfair for just dudes to take the bullet. Becca asks, when I was in Korea, I
saw many guys dressed in their military uniforms walking around doing normal stuff. Do you have to wear the military uniform all the time, even when they are on leave?
Or do they go around with them on? No, what you probably saw was people that have just left their base or are going back to their bases. You don't put your military uniforms on between the leaves, but you will have to do so if you are going out of the base, because you don't have your own clothes in the base. You only have your uniforms. Or if you're going back into the base, because you're not going to take your clothes from home, you're not going to take your Nikes back to your base. Why is it that some idols are placed in the band and others actually served in other actual placements? Why are they regarded as the same when essentially one does more work than other, I assume? Getting into the band and the army is pretty tough. The people there are very talented musicians. And secondly, the job you get, the work you will do in the military really depends on where you go, what kind of job you have. If you're super unlucky, you will get the shittiest job ever. You will do lots and lots of work. If you are super lucky, like me, you will be basically napping through the whole time you're there. And people just accept it because they have served for the country regardless. It's just 2 years is 2 years. Is there any way or reason for a man to skip his military service for his entire life? Win a medal in the Olympic Games, win a gold in the Asian Games, or go to prison? Are bases and duties assigned in the first week of training? How do media get info about promotions and medical care? No, bases and duties are not assigned in the first week of training. They are decided later, either later or before you go in. So you can apply for certain jobs, then you already know what you're gonna do. But if you haven't applied for a job before you go, then basically you don't know what you're gonna do until the very end. Promotions are everybody knows when they're gonna get promoted, because it's just time-based. So like for 4 months you're a private, for 6 months you're the next rank, and blah blah blah. Medical info, I'm guessing like just the labels release them probably. What do people actually do in their enlistment? They are not out on a real battlefield, right? There's no active battlefield right now, but they could potentially be in dangerous situations, especially near the DMZ or in the sea. Because there have been many conflicts, many skirmishes between North Korea and South Korea, small but deadly nonetheless, for the past few years or so. So there are definitely threats of active combat that you could face if you serve in the front lines. But if you serve way behind, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that dangerous. If the Korean War has officially ended, do you think there is any chance mandatory service will be eliminated eventually? Even if the Korean War ends, there are still threats that we need to deal with, and we need an army to deter possible war threats from other neighboring countries. So I don't see mandatory service going out of the door anytime soon. I wanted to know how most of the men you know went to the military. Do they wait as long as possible, or do they just get it over with? Do you know what most guys do? Most guys will try to go as early as possible. Most people in college, they go after their first freshman year or their second year at the latest. I went after my second year, but a lot of people in my major, in my class, went first year, after first year. It's because if you don't finish your service early, if you push it later on to delay it to the fullest, you're gonna have a really hard time getting a job, say once you graduate college, because companies will state up front that they only will accept people who have finished their military service, because they don't want to risk losing the employee for 2 years. So it's very uncommon for people to go after like graduating or something like that. And also when you go inside, you don't want to be a private and listen to other people and having other people shout and yell at you and they're like 5 years younger than you. So most people just prefer to go at a young age. Do they have any forms of communication aside from letters? Of course we do. We have the phone, though you can't use it all the time. You can only use it like after your work hours. You can use the computer room where you have internet access, and that's also after work hours. But you can use Facebook Messenger. That's very common to contact with friends from outside and inside the army as well. I read somewhere that if you can speak good English, you can apply to some other type of system where you are allowed to go home at night. What the fuck? I guess I was missing out on something. Why people have such different service experiences like you guys? Asked Dom. In the military, there are lots of needs in the military. It's not just combat that takes place in the army. In fact, a lot of it is non-combat related. Schools that train officers, for example, that's where I was. People that cook, that's also in the military. And there's lots and lots of jobs. So essentially, it's like a society within a society. That's why everybody's experience is so different. In a scale of 1 to 10, how hard it is? Physically, 3. If you're minimally healthy, you can do it. Mentally, it's 8 or 9. You go crazy inside. If you want to know how Korean military service is like, just imagine this. You have a boss at work, really shitty boss, and you work this 9 to 6 job that's you're dreading. You get paid $400 per month. That's like a fifth of the minimum wage you have in your country. After work, after you go home, this boss also follows you home and is beside you until you go to sleep at 10 p.m. And you sleep and you share the same room with each other. And then you wake up and the boss is still there and he goes to work with you and he's your shitty boss again. You're basically living with your shitty boss 24 hours a day, 365 days a week. He's even home in your weekends. How military can affect you both physically and psychologically? Physically, I think I became more fit. I grew more fit because I was exercising regularly and I had a lot of time to exercise there, but also at the same time, I got some health issues regarding my knee in training camp because I did a lot of movements that were very straining on my knee. And in training camp and in like army exercises, rarely does anybody consider your personal health issues. It's like it's a group thing. You work and you exercise together in a group, so your health issues aren't concerned. So that means you have to really take care of yourself. Luckily, I'm completely healthy right now, so thank God for that. Psychologically, you get really numb. Before going to the army, I was actually a very emotional person. I used to cry a lot, let me just admit that. And also very sentimental, very always aware of my surroundings, always like in this daydreaming and shit like that. And then I went to the army and everything just stopped. Everything just stopped. I lost sense of my emotions. I think I haven't cried ever since I finished my army service. I think I haven't cried ever since I finished my training camp. It's like I can't cry. As somebody who thought of himself as a creative person, it's really difficult to be honest because I don't have my emotions anymore. Give me back my emotions. I think a lot of people in the military also agree with me and have similar symptoms. I know a friend who's doing art and also he's been saying similar things. Like he has completely lost inspiration after going out of the army because he doesn't have emotions anymore. It does that to you sometimes. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed this little talk. Usually don't really like thinking about the army, but at the same time, there were fun moments here and there between. So if you want to know more about the army, please let me know. Please ask more questions in the comments. I will try to answer them if I have the time. I'm a very busy person, as you know. This is my full-time job and I edit all the time. But it's okay. I will try to find time anyways. Please subscribe and comment. And we will see you guys next time. So to think that the chart still has any integrity at all, I think is kind of funny.
It's laughable. It still doesn't it doesn't make sense that like these people that are not even listening to these songs and playing these songs on loop are still being counted as views.